Good morning, everybody. We are here today at the Missouri Botanical Garden. I'm Christina, and this is Cassidy. And this morning, we were originally planning on giving you guys a tour of the new temporary visitor center that we'll be using soon as a space for you to enter while the construction continues. But the fall color is just so breathtaking and so at its peak right now that we decided to wait to show you guys the inside of a building, and today we are going to continue with our outdoor tours instead and give you one more fall color tour today. So let me turn this camera around and you can see why we just didn't want to be inside today. We're going to go ahead and walk through the English Woodland Garden. Or if you tuned in a couple weeks ago when we climbed the tree, actually that tree is right here. This is the Ohio Buckeye. That's where we were. But you can see that since that tour, a lot more color has come into the landscape here. And I'm just repeating again for anyone who's just tuning in now that originally this tour was planned to be of the temporary visitor center, but we're postponing that because the fall color today is just really beautiful and we wanted to take the time to show you that instead.
Yeah, there's some great yellow color on this Chinese witch hazel, and if you can see here, these are actually the flower buds. So this is a winter blooming shrub, and so eventually the yellow leaves will drop off and then these will open in sort of a spidery, spindly mass of petals, and so this will go from one kind of yellow to a completely different kind of yellow here just over the next few weeks. It's one of my favorites in the English woodland.
And here we have an evergreen azalea in bloom right now too. A rare splash of pink right now.
It's called autumn amethyst. How appropriate.
So right now we're approaching one of my favorite features personally of the whole garden, which is this grove mostly of ginkgos. So all of these bright golden yellow trees here ahead, these are all ginkgo trees. And they are certainly at their peak right now. They tend to drop all their leaves all at once, and you can see that that's already started to happen. There's this blanket of gold and yellow on the ground. And if a breeze blows through here, you can see them really start falling all at once. But yeah, just to show you guys how much these leaves coat the ground, it's really amazing. If you have these are actually a very popular street tree, so if you have these in your neighborhood, you'll know, because if you're walking on the sidewalk, suddenly it will be yellow. It's probably a ginkgo tree.
You may also know because you step on these and then your shoes stink for a while. These are they're sort of cone-like structures, but the fruit of the ginkgo tree. So the female trees produce these fruits. And yeah, when they crack open, they're kind of stinky.
Yes,
so,
somebody just asked, are those female or male ginkgo trees?
We have both here. So there are female trees. If you can hear the patting right now, and I'll move out of the way so we can see the leaves come down. So we're pretty close to a female tree that's dropping some fruit as
Yeah.
we stand here. And we actually have one ginkgo that we'll visit later on in this tour that is actually both. So most trees are one or the other, but this ginkgo that we'll see a little later on the tour is both, has a female branch in what is otherwise a male tree.
So you can see with the fall color right now at its peak, it's definitely a good time to visit if you haven't come by lately to see the fall foliage. So not only is it a great week to visit though, it is also our member appreciation days right now through November 15th. So if you're a member or if you've been thinking about becoming a member, this week you can gift a membership, renew a membership, or just buy yourself a new membership, and it's 20% off. So if you've been thinking about that, it's definitely a good time to do it. And you can do that online, or you can come here and pay us a visit to see this beautiful fall color and do it while you're here. Now we're down here by the lake, but looking back up at those same ginkgos. And that yellow is just so striking. Interspersed now with the Japanese maples. That's where a lot of that deep red is coming from. And it is a warm day today too here in St. Louis. It's in the mid-70s and pretty humid too.
And I swear it was sunny earlier.
Yes.
But now the clouds have taken over, and I actually sort of like that looking at fall colors. I think the gray sky just provides a nice background to really let those foliage colors pop.
So last week's tour, we walked around the whole perimeter of the Japanese garden lake. Today we're going to take you to see some other fall color, but if you want to go back and see that, you can find that tour on our Facebook page if you scroll back to last week, or you can find it on our virtual tours playlist on YouTube. But you can see that the Japanese garden really does look great right now. So definitely a great time to visit this week. Yeah, you can see that patch of blue sky up there where the sun was earlier.
I don't know if we'll catch an action, but you can see all these leaves that we have here. Right now they're on the lawn. We don't want to leave them there because it just sort of detracts from having that green grass show through on a visitor experience. So the garden actually has giant leaf vacuums. They're giant boxes on wheels with huge hoses, and they'll actually come through and suck all these up and take them to compost. So we'll keep an eye out for it. I think we would hear it before we would see it, but that's how the garden gets rid of a lot of its leaves. And as you can tell, just this weekend we have a lot of leaves to pick up, and that's how the garden does it, is with this giant leaf vacuum to take leaves to compost. And you know, as a homeowner, if you have a tree and it's dropped leaves in your yard, you can certainly leave them on the ground and they'll create their own compost, but it's not necessarily the best thing for your lawn. So if you want to keep your lawn healthy, it's probably best to rake up those leaves and maybe consider using that as a base to start a compost pile yourself. So I figured we'd take a break in the leaves and just talk a little bit about what we do with all the leaves that fall off of our trees here at the garden.
Yes, Barb just commented and said she wished she had her own leaf vacuum. And we did have a couple people comment asking about membership prices. So there are different levels of membership, and you can find out the details of each of those by going to mobot.org/membership. And all the information will be there for you. Here's another ginkgo. They just stand out because of that huge pile at the bottom that drops all at once. I saw someone describe it once as a tree sneezing. That's what it would look like if a tree sneezed. We have a question from Linda asking if tickets are available for the light display. Yes, we do have tickets for Garden Glow on sale now. And you can find those by going to our Garden Glow website.
And I believe that starts this weekend, doesn't it?
I believe it starts Wednesday, but the exact dates are on the website. And actually, I should mention that with Garden Glow starting, we have changed our regular visiting hours. So now with our winter hours, last entry for the day for regular admission will be at 3 p.m. Gives us a little extra time to get ready to open each night for Garden Glow. So if you are planning on coming to visit, just beware that that is our new hours now.
I can see another ginkgo ahead of us that had a big sneeze this morning.
Yeah.
That's what this is. This is the ginkgo tour today, because they really are just at their peak and really kind of stealing the show out from some of the other foliage. But over here we have some more witch hazel. And actually we have some that's in bloom too. So there's a couple different kinds of witch hazel, some that are fall blooming, and then others that bloom in sort of late winter, early spring, February, March. So I believe this is one that will be blooming in that time, in late winter, early spring. And it's got some really pretty color on its leaves here. And then if we pop over here, is one that's actually in bloom. And the flowers look a little different on this one than the ones that bloom in the winter, but this gives you a general idea kind of what witch hazel flowers look like. And one of the reasons that witch hazels bloom when they do, being now and then in the winter, is they're actually being advantageous by setting themselves apart as one of the only food sources for pollinators that might come out on a warm day in late February, early March, and then that witch hazel and its flowers aren't competing with, say, tulips or cherry blossoms. So it's a really advantageous trait of witch hazels in particular.
And you can see ahead here that some of our garden glow decorations are up right here. This is an area that looks really great at night. So that's what you're seeing right now on the lawns here.
And I don't remember if we've mentioned this before on our tours, but we started putting up Christmas lights in August to be ready for garden glow this year. It took a lot longer, just with safety measures in place. It took a lot longer to get everything ready. So we've had staff stringing Christmas lights since August, all to get ready for this week when glow finally opens and you can come and see it.
This is another one of those leaf drops that we keep seeing from the ginkgos here.
And there is still some color in some of our other trees as well. Sweet gums are one that I've noticed in the neighborhood that have lots of color right now. At our neighbors, Tower Grove Park, I was there this morning, and their sweet gum trees are all sorts of colors. And so that's another sort of larger tree that you'll see good color on right now, as is the one that we're coming up on here on our central axis. These bald cypress have this really great copper color, and you can kind of see the carpet that they've laid down on top of this hedge here. And bald cypress is actually a deciduous conifer. So you have the evergreens, like pines, that will hold their needles all year and stay green. these actually change color and drop their needles, so you get a great show of fall color from these conifers. And they do make a mess of our water lily pools, so luckily there's no water lilies in them right now. And here's a good example. We were talking about how the ginkgos drop their leaves all at once. This tree right in front of us is completely devoid of leaves. You can see the remnants of the yellow along the hedge there. Marielle, who takes care of this area, was actually out here this morning taking truckloads of leaves off the path because this tree dropped everything all at once, and then you can see the ginkgo behind it still has almost all of its leaves. So one tree decided it was ready for winter and it was done, and the other one says, oh, I'll wait out this nice day, maybe tomorrow. And you can kind of see the same thing at the far end of the axis here as we walk towards it. So again, the bronze coppery color that you see as we're walking, that's the bald cypress, and then that bright yellow at the end is the two of the ginkgos, and you can see one that has dropped most of its leaves this morning and the other that's still waiting. And there's the blue sky.
Yeah, look, it's right behind us this whole time. We have a question from Brian that Cassidy, you may know the answer to. Approximately how old is that oldest ginkgo? It dates back to...
We know it dates back to when Henry Shaw was still alive, so it's at least 130 years old. I don't know that we have a specific age, so when you want to find an age of a living tree, it's the same as you would with one that's been cut down by cutting the rings. And what you have to do on a living tree is take a core sample to be able to count the rings. And that's not something that our horticulturists like to do because it's cutting into a tree, and you kind of run the risk of creating a wound that might cause problems for the tree. But a few years ago they did core samples of trees they thought were some of the oldest at the garden, and that ginkgo was one that they did in fact take a core sample from and know that it is at least 130 years old. And there's a good chance that some of these other ginkgos are at least that old, if not only slightly younger. We actually, I found this little tidbit reading back through some garden records, but we claim to have had the first ginkgo known to be struck by lightning in the U.S.
Is that one that's still alive, or was it killed by the strike?
It's not still alive, but that was something, you know, ginkgos are not native to the U.S. They're from China. They're actually the only still living species of an entire genus of in fact, an entire order of plants. And so they are really considered living fossils in that way, but they're really sturdy trees. And so this was an article in the 40s about how great ginkgo trees were, and they just happened to mention that they'd never known one to be struck by lightning until we had one that was hit and damaged and had to be cut down. I wanted to stop here just because there's a couple of little, I think maybe it's on previous tours, but there's little fall blooming irises here. Let's take a look at this is called Baby Blessed. don't think it's particularly common to see too many irises in bloom in what is almost mid-November. So this caught my eye. And there's actually another one up here as well.
Oh yeah. Let's head that way.
This one is called Double Shot, which I think is a nod to the fact that it actually blooms twice a year. So this one bloomed in the spring, and its second shot, so to speak, is right now. So you can see the bloom that's here, and then actually a few buds as well that have yet to open. So you'll probably, assuming the weather stays nice and there isn't a hard freeze or anything like that overnight, have a few more days to see these irises. Man, I actually see another one too. I'm kind of surprised how many. I don't want to oversell it. This is definitely not the same as its peak in mid-May, but it's just kind of surprising to see a handful of irises in bloom right now.
Yeah, it really is.
As we come through here, we've talked a little bit about witch hazels, trying to steal the show from the ginkgos today. So this is an area of the garden that has quite a few witch hazels, probably our greatest concentration of witch hazels. And so that's a good amount of this sort of tall shrub level fall foliage you're seeing as we walk through here is coming from the witch hazels. And then this is a great place to come and walk again in sort of late winter, early spring, when these are all in bloom.
And here we're also passing by what is the frosted forest at night during garden glow. You can kind of see the lights on some of these. Of course, they'll show up at night much better, but these trees are cool because these are real live cut trees that we get each year. And some people understandably hear live cut trees and think that, oh, is that not bad for the environment to kill so many trees? But the reality is that the Christmas tree farm industry is actually great for the environment because it ends up creating so many more trees than would otherwise exist. And when you have a tree that dies at the end of the year because it's been cut, it decomposes and returns the nutrients to the soil, whereas a plastic tree is going to be in a landfill for a very long time. So just an interesting fact that cut trees are actually much better for the environment. And here is a ginkgo really in its full glory.
And this is the oldest ginkgo that we were talking about a little bit earlier, and it's also the ginkgo that has the female limb on it. So for those that are just joining us now, we were talking earlier about how ginkgo trees are either male or female, and the female ones bear those stinky fruits that you step on the sidewalk all the time. And so this tree is mostly male, but it has one limb that bears fruit, which is just kind of an oddity in and of itself. And then for this to also be one of the oldest trees that we know about here at the garden. Plus it just looks pretty right now. And it's got all this gold from the witch hazel underneath it, and all the gold from the leaves that have fallen off the tree. Plus the sun and blue sky.
Oh, look at those leaves falling. So thank you guys for coming along on this fall color tour today. This is where we're going to end today, taking a look at this really, really glorious ginkgo right now, dropping its leaves in the breeze. So thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you guys again soon. Make sure to visit this week while the fall color is still at its peak. It looks wonderful.